Ugly.
Five.
Who are the best and who are the worst NFL teams? It's Mike Gill's Fine Five and Ugly Five on 97.3 ESPN FM, South Jersey's football station.
Fine.
Here we go. Here are this week's Fine Five and Ugly Five. Josh and I with this week's Fine Five, Ugly Five. These are mine. Those are his, and we'll give them to you now. Ugly Five. This is tough. I got number 5. Somebody dropped out. I got to get where's my list from last week?
I had a guy drop out too, so.
Give me your 5th.
My 5th team is the Titans. I had to drop them down a notch just because the two teams I put ahead of them, I am so just totally despondent over and despise them that I had to put them in the list ahead of the Titans.
I had Tennessee at 5 last week. They're not in my Fine Five. They're not my Uglies this week, even though they've lost 2 in a row.
You're the guy who argued for weeks they had to be in there.
They deserve to be in there, but these 5 teams are even worse.
Who's your 5th team?
Indianapolis is horrible. 125 points they've given up. You said it right, Josh. You nailed this one. Andrew Luck is the Mike Trout of football. That team stinks, man. And they are so bad that even though the Titans have lost 2 straight, and I think they have no talent, the Colts might have less talent other than at the quarterback position. That's the only reason they get it passed by people. They're worse than the Titans. You know why? The Titans give a bleep. They actually try. They claw, they fight. The Colts this week have supplanted the Titans as my 5th worst team in the league.
Well, my 4th worst team is this is the team that had Leo and the Chiefs. And then last week they lose at home to the Saints. The Chargers look like a team that is lost and confused.
You know, I agree with you. I had the Chargers at number 4 because they look like a team that I feel bad for them because the injuries are just something that they can't overcome. They lost Keenan Allen, which is unfortunate. They lost Woodhead. That's their 2 best options on the offensive side of the ball. And their defense is horrendous. They lose to the Saints at home. I mean, it's one thing to lose to the Saints in their building, but to lose to them at home, the Saints, even when they were good, didn't play that well on the road. They're horrible now, and they beat you in your own building. I feel bad for the Chargers. The injuries are a problem, but I'm going Chargers, number 4. In the Ugly Five.
My number 3 team is also a new entrant to the Ugly Five for me, the Miami Dolphins. This team should have lost to the Browns. I feel like I'm watching this Dolphins team and all I think of is Adam Gase, Josh McDaniel 2.0. Is he another one of these hot coordinators, young guys, who gets a head coaching job and he's just totally overwhelmed because Ryan Tannehill has digressed every year for the last couple of years. That team does not look very well organized. They are ugly.
Josh, I could make a case for them. We should have a steel cage match, a Hell in a Cell, and put all these teams in there. Tennessee, Chicago, Minnesota. Miami.
Our number 1 team would win so hard.
Oh, man. You know who would win? They're my number 1 team this week. I'll tell you who they are in just a minute. Number 3, you'll see them up close and personal this week. They've lost 3 in a row. Their defense is 102.
Here we go.
They got injury problems. The Lions I've got as the 3rd worst. They lost to the Bears. I mean, come on. You saw what the Bears have. Nothing. The Bears have nothing. And the Lions lost to the Bears. The Lions are in that steel cage. Is it a steel cage match? Is it Hell in a Cell? Which one is it, PT?
Hell in a Cell has a better ring to it. Gotta be Hell in a Cell.
This is the Undertaker throwing Mick Foley through the top of the cage. Someone's going to fall down and hit the bottom of that mat, and it's probably the Lions because they stink.
My number 2 team is the 49ers. I am still a malcontent over this roster.
Malcontent.
I mean, this roster is so poor, and now Navarro Bowman is out for the year, so there's your best defensive player. At some point, Chip Kelly has to admit that Blaine Gabbert is a bust in the NFL and just put Kaepernick in there just to show that he actually has an interest in attempting to win football games.
Josh, I should fit them somewhere in the Ugly Five. Put them in the cell because they deserve to be in the Ugly Five. The only reason I don't have them in there is because they're not the Saints, who actually won last week on the road, is number 2. I can't move the team that was number 1 my week before and drop them out of the Ugly Five. They can't leave yet. They got to do it multiple weeks. They just beat a team that's in the Ugly Five.
That's true.
That's why they're number
there
2
with
in
Well,
this
my
week's
number
Ugly
1
Five.
team is the team in your scenario. We put all the ugly teams in a cage. I think they would survive on heart because this team can't win a game. This team
They really
is
try
playing with their
hard.
third-string quarterback. But gosh
Should've won
darn
last
it,
week.
this team wants to win games.
They do.
And that's the Browns.
Look, in the
A
ugly.
for
Okay,
effort, D for execution.
this is the 6-man tag match. It's between the Dolphins, the Chargers, the Browns, the Titans, the Colts. You can make a case for the Jaguars if you want.
I wouldn't go that far.
You could put the 49ers in there,
Yes.
the Bears, the Lions,
Sure.
and the Saints. There are 10 teams. This is a 10-man battle royal. Who gets thrown over the top rope? It's the Browns. They're the worst. But they fight the hardest.
They really do.
It's like a cruiserweight jumping in the ring with a heavyweight there.
How are they marketing for tickets right now, Josh? What's their image they're using?
Terrell Pryor. Come see Terrell Pryor play this Sunday.
That tells you right there how far the Browns are trying, the hill the Browns are trying to climb.
All right, these are the fine 5, the 5 best teams from 5 up. There's not 5 really good teams.
There's about 3 or 4 really good teams, and the 5th team was really a struggle for me, but I had to go and put the Seahawks in at 5 because I had the Giants there last week, and the Giants lost in a very disappointing way to the Vikings. The Seahawks went on the road. I did not expect them to go cross-country, beat the Jets in their house, but they did it. I got to give them credit, and they're going on a bye week, so they're kind of going to have a chance to get healed up.
Here's a question. It's never happened before in the history of the Fine 5, Ugly 5. A team has never appeared on both sides.
Is that going to happen today?
No, but I'm interested to see if one week when Josh will slide the Rams over to the Fine 5. At what record will Josh start to consider them? They're not in my Fine 5. Number 5 in my Fine 5 right now is Pittsburgh. I got Pittsburgh number 5. Great rebound against the Chiefs the other night. They absolutely lambasted them. They got Le'Veon Bell back now just to add another wrinkle. That's like the Bell, Brown, and Roethlisberger. They got to be one of the toughest trios to kind of stop in the league right now. I like the Pittsburgh Steelers, number 5.
So I had the Steelers on my number 4 because I look back on that Eagles loss, and all I can think of is remember the Patriots a couple years ago? They went to Kansas City and they got blown out of the building.
Yeah.
That's all I can think of with the Steelers team. I think you're going to see the Steelers team make a run from here on out, heading into the playoffs on a hot streak.
I wouldn't disagree with that. Number 4, I got Philly this week. They were idle. They didn't play, but they were 5 last week. But because of some of these other teams, I moved them up one spot, mainly because they played Pittsburgh head-to-head and beat them. And they're going to play Detroit this week, and I would assume that they're going to be 4-0 at the end of the week. So for another week, they stick around in the Fine 5. And mainly because, defensively, they've only given up 27 points on the season. And when I judge my teams, I look at your defense. 27 points is going to get just about anybody in after 3 games.
Well, speaking of defense, my number 3 team is the Broncos. So they're winning on the road, they're winning at home, and then last week they lose their starting quarterback. Paxton Lynch comes in, A-OK, no problem. They win with that. They even got over a thunderstorm delay and still won.
And a fight. Don't forget they fought.
And the fight was stupid.
Who won the fight?
Nobody won because you shouldn't be fighting in a blowout loss.
There are no winners or losers in a fight, Pete.
PT, what do you think of this song?
This is from the good, the bad, and the ugly.
That's
so
right.
That's good.
This is the good, the bad, and the ugly. These are the goods. Denver, I agree with you. Denver has been maybe the biggest surprise for me in terms of the level of excellence that they've shown. I didn't even think they'd be a playoff team this year, just because of some of the guys they lost on defense, going to this suspect quarterback spot. The quarterbacks have stepped up, but more importantly, the defense has not really skipped a beat. So Denver last week, number 3, they stay at number 3 in my Fine 5.
My number 2 team is the team that won on Monday Night Football. The Vikings are staying at 2 for me because of the fact that it's not that they just beat the Giants. It's not that they're just beating good quarterbacks like Eli Manning and Aaron Rodgers and Cam Newton, but it's that they're doing so in a very authoritative fashion. And to me, I got to keep them at 2.
I made a flip. Number 1 last week, New England. Number 2 this week, New England. Patriots lose last week. And look, Gronk's not the same. There's something wrong with Gronk. He kind of admitted it as well. So without Gronk, even with Brady back, as this schedule gets a little deeper, they gotta get him healthy. They're not the same team without Gronk moving forward here. So I think without Gronk, I like New England 2, and I like Minnesota number 1.
I have Patriots staying at 1 because they were without Tom Brady. They were on their number 3 quarterback last week. I cannot hold that against them. Even Super Bowl champions that go 12-4 have to lose a game somewhere.
No doubt.
And guess what? I think Tom Brady is coming back with a vengeance.
I agree. And
I think he's going to go on a roll.
If New England plays Minnesota, the defense of the Vikings, I'm interested to see how that Patriots offense goes up against that defense. I think that could be a problem for them. And for that reason, I like Minnesota slightly better than I like New England right now. And keep in mind, Sam Bradford went up to New England last year and beat those guys. Played maybe one of his best games of the season in Foxborough. So Minnesota is number 1 for me. New England stays number 1 for you. That's this week's Fine Five in the Ugly Five. PT, who won?
I would say that Josh won because he had the moral message of fighting is not good and you should try to work it out. Use your words, boys. Use your words, not your fists.